Dragon Quest Heroes combines two long-running game franchises, Dynasty Warriors and Dragon Quest. The first of these two is a Musou-style game, which most people attribute to mashing the attack button repeatedly for the entire game. While that still remains true to some degree, let me first explain what type of game this is. Well, the word Musou translates into unmatched or peerless. Didn't think you learned some Japanese today, did ya? But that's basically the feeling you're supposed to get in these games. That you are the most powerful warrior ever as you run around the battlefield and crush all that oppose you. Except for Lu Bu. I hate that guy. Sorry. Anyway, this game type has been mashed with the legendary Dragon Quest franchise. Although not a massive hit in the States, Dragon Quest has an enormous following in Japan and has garnered a following from those in the West who have played the games in the past. Personally, my introduction to the series was a little title on the Game Boy Color known as Dragon Warrior Monster. My friend owned the game and we would sit in this booth in my basement and huddle next to one another as we took turns controlling our little band of monsters. More recently, I've had the utmost pleasure in playing through Dragon Quest VIII on the PlayStation 2, which has given me a deep appreciation for Dragon Quest. Typically in the series, the combat is turn-style based, which means you enter encounters with monsters and plan out your attacks before you execute them. This is definitely not the case in Dragon Quest Heroes. The game retains the classic aforementioned Musou-style beat-em-up that we've seen for years. The question is, would this game be worth your time if you're a fan of either franchise or a newcomer to both? The answer is a definite yes, but let's break down the components to give you a better understanding of what you'd be getting yourself into if you ran out and bought this game today. First off, story is key in an RPG. Unfortunately, this is the low point of the entire game. The antagonist is your typical run-of-the-mill villain and his plan isn't anything groundbreaking. Characters are quirky, but mostly fall into one-note stereotypes. Their motivations are pretty shallow and contrived, but it's cool to see characters from the entire series cross paths and draw swords together. The best new character has to be King Doric. His jolly demeanor and his thirst for battle are the true embodiment of what this game is all about, slaying monsters and having a great time doing it. Also, his moves are just the best. When he isn't spinning around on a huge mace, he creates black holes and calls down meteors. I love this guy. All the characters sport skill trees which you can use to help define what types of roles you want them to carry out. This, paired with weapons, armor, and eventual alchemy pod items, add a surprising amount of depth not really seen before in any Musou-style game. Combat is fast, frenetic, and above all gorgeous. Most of the time you'll be running from one side of the battlefield to another, fighting waves upon waves of monsters whose looks are timeless and mainly unchanged from their original designs. Each character comes with 3 distinct abilities and combos, except for the 2 starting characters, Lucius and Aurora, whose moves are almost identical, except for one sports fire attacks while the other utilizes ice. The variety of attacks and spells that come with each character are the bread and butter of this game. If you get bored hacking and slashing with one character, you can jump to one of 3 other party members at any time. This is really nice when you have to change up tactics on the fly between one character that excels at clearing out tons of enemies and one that is better at dishing out damage to one gigantic boss. Attacks feel like they have weight, and stringing together combos are pretty simple. One other major point to mention about the combat is the tension gauge. This is a purple meter that builds up over the course of the battle and, once fully filled, will allow your character to spam their MP draining skills endlessly, allow you to move faster, double jump, be immune to damage, and end with a character-specific coup de grace that annihilates every monster around you. Tension is another thing to bleed over from former Dragon Quest games, and it fits nicely where the old Musou gauge from the Dynasty Warrior titles would be. Above all else, it is beautiful. Everything from spell designs, to characters flying around the screen, to even the damage indicators. Combat is without a doubt the best thing about this game. Like I said before, the story isn't really amazing in any way. It does enough to bring all the characters from all these games together, but beyond that, it's pretty standard RPG fare. Speaking of the characters again, like I said before, they're pretty one-dimensional. These are the only real complaints that we have though. This game has got a lot of things going for it on the other hand. First, it does an admirable job of translating the heart and soul of the Dragon Quest series into a game about primarily mowing down monsters. This can be seen best in the airship, which acts as your base of operations for the entire game. Interacting with various merchants, deckhands, and other patrons on the ship really make the world feel more legitimate. Another cool aspect about the airship is that to change out your party members, you have to go to the onboard pub to do so. This makes the party members who aren't actively fighting the monster hordes with you feel like they aren't just arbitrarily waiting in a menu screen to be switched out when you need them. Conversing with them also helps flesh out who they are and why they are fighting alongside you. Another thing I absolutely love to see are the hand-drawn figures seen throughout the game. This is one distinguishing feature of the Dragon Quest franchise, and it's great to see it remain a staple here. You just don't see this kind of thing anymore, and it's greatly appreciated. Along with that, the songs and sound effects have also remained mostly unchanged, which is wonderful because these are timeless and perfect since their inception. Finally, and I keep repeating myself here, but this game is absolutely stunning to look at. It is without a doubt one of the best looking games I've seen on the PlayStation 4 so far. To wrap things up, Dragon Quest Heroes on the surface could be seen as a Dynasty Warriors clone with the Dragon Quest skin slapped on it to prey on the good faith garnered by this long-running franchise, but it isn't the case at all. It stands on its own as one of the best Musou games ever, bolstered by all the things that make Dragon Quest a great series in the first place. Although its story is somewhat lackluster and some of the characters are pretty shallow, the gorgeous visuals, solid combat, and variety of fighting styles makes Dragon Quest Heroes a game totally worth picking up.